and welcome back to my channel. Today I am bringing you my September wrap-up. This month I read a total of 16 things, which is great. I'm so happy with that number. Out of that number, 4 of those were audiobooks and 3 were ebooks. So I'm really happy with the way everything went. And with that, I'm just gonna go ahead and get into this wrap-up. The first ebook that I read this month is called Crew by Tijan. I'm not sure if I'm saying that name right. Probably not. I'm known for that. Anyways, this book follows Bren and it's set in like the same world as her Falling Crest series in a different town, and it's like based in this, it's considered a young adult novel. I think it's more mature young adult. It really does kind of toe the line to new adult, which is what she usually writes. In this we follow Bren, and she is in what is called a crew, and in like her high school there's like this crew system set up to where there's like people who are crew and normals. I have like a love-hate relationship with this author. Some of her books I thought were really great, and then like some of them I'm just like, what is this? And this is one of the ones that I was like, what is this? I didn't know that the word crew could be in a book so many times. It's like repetitively said and repetitively explained to you, and I think that's kind of where it became a little frustrating to me, because you were constantly hearing this word crew, I'm crew, I'm crew, and it was like, we get it. But other than that, it was an okay read. I ended up giving it 2 out of 5 stars. If you're a fan of this author, then you probably will really enjoy this book. She has such a following of readers that really enjoy her books, and if you've enjoyed her books in the past, then it might be worth trying out. Just for me personally, it didn't really hit the mark this time, and it's known, like, it's really hit or miss for me with this author, and I will continue trying to read her books. I think this is the first book in a new series. No idea how many books are going to be in it, but I will continue to read it. The next book that I read was Blood Match by K.A. Lindy, I think is how it's pronounced. I'm so bad at that too. But anyways, in Blood Match we are of course continuing on from the first book, which is called Blood Type. So if you have not read that yet, then of course you want to read the first book before you move on to the second book. And of course this continues on from the first novel, where the first novel kind of left off on a cliffhanger. You immediately pick back up to where Raina is now dealing with being separated from Beckham, and their story moving on from there. A lot of things happen in this book, but there is like, I feel like the middle part of it was just like so like flat, and not much happened. There's like, I don't know for sure how many pages, but there's definitely a part where nothing's really happening and it's just kind of like the characters are just there and nothing's really being accomplished. The plot isn't really moving forward in the book. So for me, that made it a little bit harder to read it. It took me a long time in comparison to how long it took me to read the first book. I ended up giving this title 3 out of 5 stars. I will eventually finish the third book. I did start it, but because there was such a long like period of just standing still in the second book, I haven't, exactly wanted to pick up the third book right away, just because I'm scared of falling into a slump. So I will continue on eventually, but I did read this month. Next up for ebooks, I did read Dirty Headlines by LJ Shen. I really enjoy LJ's books. Usually they're really good reads for me, and this one was really no different. It was really interesting. I think that it was one of her more like well thought out novels. The characters, one of the things that I enjoy so much about her books is that nobody's perfect in them. Like, there's no perfect, romantic interest or perfect main character, and that's something that I really like because it makes it so much more realistic. In Dirty Headlines we follow Jude, who is a struggling 20-something. She's got bills to pay. She's the sole provider for her and her father, who is sick with cancer. So there is kind of like some sad parts to this book, just be aware, but it doesn't get too dark or too sad, so that's awesome. And of course you follow, I don't know how to say his name, I think it's Celine, I don't know, I'm butchering that, but anyways, it follows them. They end up hooking up as a one-night stand, and then she wakes up in the morning and actually steals his wallet. And it sounds really terrible. It is really terrible what she does, but it actually adds such a great, interesting point to the plot. And of course she leaves, and a couple weeks later she gets a new job, and turns out he is her new boss. So it is a workplace romance, kind of an enemies to lovers. I think that they are such a cute relationship though, like not in like the sweet manner, but I love the like witty banter in this book. It's so good. There are some really funny scenes, and of course there's also like a lot of obstacles that they have to overcome, just aside from being in an employee-employer relationship, which is always, yeah. Anyways, I ended up giving this title 5 out of 5 stars. I really enjoyed it. If you like LJ's books, please check this out. It will not disappoint you. I actually really like this cover. I don't know what it is. I like the pink, and I'm not sure, but I usually don't like people on the cover, and this is a really nice cover, I think. So if you like it, there it is. And the final ebook that I picked up this month is called Accidentally Hitched by Piper Sullivan. I picked this book up because it was like a free book at the time. I don't know if it is still free on Kindle, but I did pick it up and read it, and it was an okay read. There wasn't much to it. There wasn't just much to it. It involved two characters, Viviana and Nash, and like they had known each other previously as like kids and high school students, and then now that they're all grown up, she moves back into town to kind of get away from things, and they kind of meet, and Nash has a daughter that Viviana kind of like takes under her wing. End up participating in this like ceremony where they get accidentally married in it. It's very weird, but it's very strange, but I mean, it's kind of cute. It was a really cute romance read. It was just, there wasn't much to it. The plot was like, not a whole lot happened in this book, and I think that's kind of where it fell a little bit short. I ended up giving it 2 out of 5 stars. For what it was okay. It was a quick read. It was something that I just kind of like needed, like I just kind of decided to read in between some books, so it worked out good. And then I moved on to audiobooks, and the first audiobook that I listened to this month was called Hothead by Stella Reese. This book I did listen to on Hoopla. I really enjoy Stella's books. This is like one in like a series. You can read them as like, you know, companion novels. They're not like, if you don't want to be too spoiled, then you should read them in order, but really you can read them separately. This is book 4 in her Irresistible series, and it follows Drew, who you do see in previous books. He is a player in a Major League Baseball team, and Evie, and they meet at a party one night where she is drunk dialing her ex, who has just broken up with her, and it's hilarious. Like, this book is so funny. Her books make me laugh out loud, period, but like just the whole premise of that, and like this guy interrupting her, calling her ex all drunk, it was fantastic. I really enjoyed it. The narrators did an awesome job. I really like how Drew and Evie's relationship evolved. Like, he is really like a hothead. He's a person who gets angry very easily. He has a lot of anger, and I kind of like how, you know, just being around her is such a good influence on him because she's totally not a hothead. I think their relationship just kind of balances out. I really enjoyed this. It was a very quick, very great romance read. I gave it 4 out of 5 stars. I love this series. If you're looking for like easy romance reads, kind of like new adultish, please pick the series up. They are so good. I also listened to Emphatic by Kaylee Ryan on Hoopla this month. This is a book that follows like a famous rock band called Soul Serenade. In this, we follow Logan, who is just coming out of a relationship where she's now a little jaded. It was a relationship that the guy was just terrible to her. He didn't really help her, didn't do anything for her, was never there for her. And she and her friend go on a vacation after college, after graduating college, as like last hurrah before entering the real world, and there she meets a man named Michael, and they have this amazing one-night stand, and then she leaves without giving him any of her information. And then she begins a new job working as an assistant, and it comes to find out that she is now Michael, or as his real name is, Kyson. He is his new assistant, and it kind of goes from there. It's a really cute book. It's very, very insta-lovey, so if that's something that you like, then you might be interested in picking this up. The two characters go well together. I just thought that Kyson, I don't know how to say his name, I just thought he was like a little too perfect, and I don't like it when characters are like so perfect they have no flaws, because to me that's just not very realistic. And like I said, it was very insta-lovey. Like, he was tossing around the L word we're like maybe 5 chapters in, I feel like. It just got very serious very fast. And for Logan, of course, you know, she took a little bit of time because she was just coming out of a relationship. So I understand that part of it, but yeah, it was an okay read. It was not the best Kaylee Ryan book I've ever read, but it was okay for what it was. I gave it 3 out of 5 stars, and I don't know if I'll be continuing on with the series. I suppose, like, maybe if I need like maybe like an in-between book to listen to on audio, then I might do that. I think that they are all on Hoopla, so I do have that option. I also listened to City of Ghosts this month by Victoria Schwab. I really enjoy Victoria Schwab's books. This is like her first like venture into middle grade, and I thought it was a pretty decent book. It was very short, which is, you know, of course normal for a middle grade book. Follows Cassidy, who can see ghosts and kind of like interact with the spirit world after having like a life-threatening situation where she almost died, and her best friend happens to be a ghost, which I think is really cool. I really like how that was written. Cassidy's parents are involved with a making of a TV show, as they are kind of like not really like ghost hunters, but they're like, you know, into telling like stories like that, and they get a TV show that takes them to Edinburgh, Scotland, and then Cassidy there finds out that not all ghosts are of course friendly, and some can actually want to harm you. Wasn't really what I was expecting going into it. I thought, like, based on the cover and kind of from like the description, that like her cat would be involved in it. Like, personally, like I was picturing like, you know, Sabrina the Teenage Witch kind of stuff, where Salem's really involved in the story, and her cat of course wasn't really involved in the story, so that was kind of a bummer because I love cats. But anyways, it was a good book for what it was. I enjoyed it. It was really quick listen. I listened to it on audiobook. That went by really fast. I ended up giving it 4 out of 5 stars. I was expecting a little bit more out of this book, but I feel like for like her first venture into writing a middle grade novel, she did a really good job. And I think this might be a series. It kind of ended where it could potentially have another book, of course, so that's kind of exciting. No books this month, and of course that was for Contemporaryathon, which was so much fun. I'm so glad I got a chance to participate. I did listen to Leah on the Offbeat by Becky Albertalli. I just want to say I've listened to all of Becky Albertalli's books on audiobook, and I love them. She has some of like the best narrators for her audiobooks. They all do such a good job, and I think that it adds so much to the story. I don't want to talk too much about the 2 books that I read for Contemporaryathon because I already did a Contemporaryathon wrap-up, so if you're interested in watching that, then please do. I will leave it linked down below. I did also listen to All the Ugly and Wonderful Things by Bryn Greenwood. I gave Lee 3 out of 5 stars, and I gave All the Ugly and Wonderful Things 2 out of 5 stars. This is kind of like continuing on with the Contemporaryathon thing real quick. These are the books that I read for Contemporaryathon. So we have Sweet Filthy Boy by Christina Lauren, Stay With Me by Mila Gray, The Smell of Other People's Houses by Bonnie Sue Hitchcock, and The 7 Husbands of Evelyn Hugo by Taylor Jenkins Reid. I enjoyed all of these books. I gave them various ratings. If you want to know more, please feel free to check out my wrap-up. Moving on to that, into the physical books that I read this month, the first one that I did pick up was Blackbird Volume 10 by Kanoko Sakurakoji. This I've just been kind of reading the series as I get the manga volumes, and I really enjoy the artwork in them. There's like, the storyline is, you know, kind of basic. It's a girl, a teenage girl who finds out that she is what's called a Sanka Maiden, which means that she is basically valuable to demons. She falls in love with a Tengu demon, and their story just kind of goes from there. They're very dramatic, and I enjoy it, and the character, like the main character, she's always crying, I feel like, but for what they are, they're enjoyable. I am going to finish the series. I only have a couple more volumes I have to read as soon as I can get a hold of them. I gave this particular volume 4 out of 5 stars, which is like an average rating for this series. I rotate between 3 and 4 stars, so it's pretty good. Next, I'm so happy to announce that I did read Lover Unbound by J.R. Ward. I buddy read this along with a friend of mine, and I love this. I think this may be my new favorite Black Dagger Brotherhood series. Of course, the Black Dagger Brotherhood is based, it's like are vampire romance novels, and they follow the Black Dagger Brotherhood, who are members who protect the Vampire Society, and I enjoy them so much. There's so much humor in this, so much banter. There's also like a lot of just things going on. Like, it's never boring. There's always something going on, and you follow the multiple perspectives in every book, but of course each book is centered around a main like couple. In this one we follow Vicious, who is like my favorite out of the brothers, so I was so happy to finally pick up his book and get his story. You find out so much more about his background that you didn't even know, and I think it added so much to his character. You also follow Dr. Jane Whitcomb, who is a surgeon. I think she's my favorite female character so far in the series. She is so just like kick butt and like take charge that I really enjoyed it. She's very empowering, and I just love them together. It gets really sad at the end, but then everything works out. Like, if you're reading this book and you get to the end and you're like, oh my god, no, continue reading. You will enjoy it. It is so good, and it's always so nice to see glimpses of past couples that we all, you know, have loved and enjoyed. But yeah, I'm so happy to have read this, and I can't wait to continue on with the series. The next book up for me will be, of course, Fury's book, and hopefully I can get to that soon. The series is so good. Of course, give this book 5 out of 5 stars. And next up, it finally happened! I'm so happy. I'm so proud of myself. I finally finished The Name of the Wind by Patrick Rothfuss. I'm so glad. Oh, I'm just so proud of myself because this book is giant, and this is of course the 10th anniversary edition. So in this edition there are like illustrations throughout, and it's got like this fancy thing in the beginning. I enjoyed this so much. It took me so long to read. It took me almost a year to read this book, and that's because I couldn't read it physically because my kid, like, she's attracted to, like, of course, these beautiful pages, and so, like, I couldn't read it in front of her, so I had to listen to it on audiobook, and I so enjoyed it. It was such a great experience. I mean, I think reading it either way is great. I did read some of it physically, but I did mainly read it via audio, and the audiobook narrator is so good. He's so good. So, this book, of course, follows Kavoth, who it's his life story, basically, approached by a chronicler who says that he basically wants to write about his life, and Kavoth who is now an innkeeper, begins telling his life story. There's so much that happens in this book. I mean, it's huge. It's an epic fantasy novel. I highly recommend it. I don't even know how to sum it up. Like, it's so good. So if you like fantasy books, please pick this up. It is so worth it. I will eventually be moving on to book 2 probably next year, just because there's not a book 3 yet and there's no like release date for it, so I'm trying not to rush through the series too much so that hopefully I don't have to like go back and reread by the time that the 3rd book comes out. But I'm so glad I read this. This is my husband's favorite book, so I'm so excited to have finally read it and be able to talk to him about it. And it's so pretty to have on your shelf. So yes, I did of course give this book 5 out of 5 stars. Highly recommend. And last but certainly not least, I did read Stalking Jack the Ripper by Carrie Maniscalco. This is the first book in the series, and it follows Audrey Rose, who is a Victorian girl living in London in the 1800s, and she is like into like forensic sciences, and just, you know, she's a very curious girl, and of course in a time period where women, you know, are more expected to be like caretakers of the home and, you know, baby makers basically. And I really enjoyed this. I went into it not knowing what to expect, and I got so much out of it. I read it so much quicker than I thought I was. I buddy read it with one of my good friends, and it was so fun. And it's a short book, but it feels so much longer, which is always really nice because, you know, the author is really packing everything into it. And this, of course, it happens during the time of Jack the Ripper, where all these women are mysteriously turning up murdered. There's gears left by their bodies and all these sort of like mysteries and clues, and Audrey Rose takes it as like a personal challenge to find out who is murdering these women and stop them. And she of course teams up with like her uncle helps her, also Thomas Cresswell, who I adored so much. He is such a cute character. I love all of the witty banter between Thomas and Audrey. I thought that they were such good partners and went together so well. I really enjoyed that aspect of the book. This book was not what I was expecting at all. I gave it 4 out of 5 stars. I will continue on with the series. And nobody had like mentioned this to me before, but there's like pictures throughout the book, which I thought was really cool. It added such a great element to the book. It kind of gave you like a visual reference, and I thought it was wonderful. Highly recommend picking up this book if you haven't yet. I cannot wait to continue on with Hunting Prince Dracula. So these are all the books that I read this month. I had such a good reading month in September. I'm so happy I read so many like physical books. This is such a great achievement for me. I cannot wait to get into October's TBR with all like the spooky reads coming up, but let me know in the comments down below if you read any of these books and which ones are your favorites, or if you read any new favorite books in the month of September. I would love to hear about it, and I will see you soon. Bye!